welcome to the Blockade Runner podcast number 130, I think. Forgot to check. Emergency show, Ryan. Happy Mando Day.
Woo! Happy Mando Day!
Mando Day, Disney Plus Day. This is Ryan. Ryan's joining me for the show, as he always does.
Yeah.
Ryan, you are the architect of this show, in fact.
Oh.
Put the show notes together and told me, look, dude, this show needs to take... Hey, Mando, we got to do this show, you know? You were like... You texted me today and you were like, look, The Mandalorian, the first episode was great. We got to do a show tonight. I have spoken. And so...
Basically, I went full Nolte.
Oh, my God. Nolte is so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you put the notes together, and we're going to talk about our impressions of Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. Our plan had been, you know what, we know it's going to be good, but if it's just pretty good, then, you know, over the weekend when we normally record, we'll just talk about Chapter 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian and other stuff. And it became apparent watching this episode that, no, it's too good to do that. And there'll be plenty to talk about this weekend anyway. So let's talk Chapter 1 tonight and the Disney Plus experience. Is that what we're going to start out with? The Disney Plus experience?
Yeah. Okay. A few things. First of all, pour one out for our Star Wars Resistance recaps because those are probably not going to happen for the next 8 weeks.
I kind of like just talking about them every once in a while. The show, you know, or big episodes, but yeah.
Yeah. Also, spoilers. Watch the show. Watch The Mandalorian.
I'll put that in the title and all over the notes, but yeah, this is, you don't want it spoiled.
Yeah.
And we have listeners, not a lot, but we have listeners. And not only do we not have a lot of listeners, we don't have a lot of listeners in Europe, in England, in Europe. I don't think anyone in Europe is getting it until like March, right? I think that's the case. Australia gets it next week, which is great for our Australian friends. But
shout out to Force Material.
Yes, exactly. Probably our only Australian. But yeah, they get it next week, so that's great for them. I don't know about Japan. I think Japan's a ways off too, aren't they?
I'll have to check with Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin's been talking about it. Yes, Kevin. Japan has been talking about it on Twitter a little bit today, but I know he doesn't have it yet. So I don't even think they've announced it for Japan, to be honest with you, because Japan has some other Disney Deluxe, it's called, or something.
Oh,
and I don't think Disney Plus is even announced for it. And he was kind of hoping that The Mandalorian would just show up on that service, but I don't think that's what happened. Anyway, the show's going to be full of spoilers. We don't want to spoil it for people who can't see it yet. So
don't listen.
Yeah, and maybe look into a VPN if you're in one of the places where it's a long way away. But anyway, all right, Disney Plus. Sorry, Ryan, I interrupted.
No, yeah. Okay, so Disney Plus. So I woke up at about a little before midnight. I've been a bit sick. I've had some like sinus and coughing stuff. So there's also, like, I'm here talking, but there's also a lot of cold medicine talking right now. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. Okay. I woke up in a coughing fit, and I didn't want to keep like my wife awake. So I came out in the living room, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just go on Twitter, whatever." It's just like the default thing I do when my brain is off and my hands need to be occupied. So I'm just like laying on the couch, coughing, looking on Twitter, and people are like, "Whoa, episode 1 of The Mandalorian." And I was like, what? It's like, it's not even midnight. I thought it wasn't going up until like 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah, it was quite a saga yesterday, because I saw Alex Kane tweeted yesterday that he had heard from someone at Lucasfilm that it would be up at midnight. But Disney Plus's website had a countdown that seemed like it was more like 6 a.m. Eastern time. And there was no official word as far as that stuff goes, but there were like fairly official sources, like an Alex Kane, people like that, other journalists who were kind of reporting different things. So it was sort of like very tough to know what was going to happen. But yeah, I woke up this morning and saw, that it did go live sometime around, probably, was it midnight Eastern, do you think? Or maybe 2 a.m. Eastern or something, but.
Yeah. I mean, it was but like I said, before midnight Mountain Time.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Wow. So Pacific time, West Coast fans, left coast fans
Mm.
could have been watching it like
Right before
what,
bed.
like 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Wow, crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So
10
did you
o'clock.
watch it in the like? You must have
No,
watched
cause
it then.
no, cause I was like, I was all groggy and like I knew I needed to like go back to sleep. But what I did, um, which turned out to be a good call, was I got the app on all of my devices, including my phone, and I was just playing around with the app, um, waiting for the cough medicine to kick in, and um, I was looking at it on my phone, and I saw the option to download episodes. So I was like, oh well, I'll just download the episode 1 of The Mandalorian just in case like I wake up and it's like a mess or whatever. So I did that and then went back to bed. And then when I woke up, the service worked fine. I ended up watching on my PS4 and using the app there because the Roku app that was built into my TV was a little sketch. It just ran really slow and like there was like input lag and stuff. So I was like, oh, this is probably not the place I want to be watching this stuff. So I did the PS4 one and it worked great until everything went down.
Oh yeah, whoops! Turned my mic off. Okay, so you downloaded it, the episode to your phone. Plus, you had the PS4 app going, so everything's good. I woke up a couple times. Actually, it's funny. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I was like, "Oh, is it Mando time yet?" Because I was assuming it was going to be. Well, I wanted to sleep. I needed sleep. I went to work today and all that stuff. So, but I woke up a couple times. I usually do, but I woke up like 4 something. I looked at my phone and I was like, "Oh, 4 something." I was like, "I think 6 Eastern is when it goes live, so I'll just go back to bed," which I'm glad I did because I wouldn't have really wanted to be awake from like 4:15 to 5 watching the episode, and then my alarm set for 5:45 anyway. So I set my alarm for 5 this morning. Woke up and watched it. Then it was awesome. Then went about my daily routine. But yeah, I used the iOS app because I was like, well, it's 5 in the morning. It's really cold in Rockford now. It's like 5 degrees last night at that time. Probably I just want to stay in bed. I got my AirPods there, just put the headphones in and watched it that way, and it was great. So yeah, so I watched it on the iPad. And I mean, the iPad is a higher resolution screen than my TV is anyways, you know what I mean? So it was definitely nice. And I'm going to go downstairs when we're done recording and watch it with the fam in surround sound and on the big TV and all that. So it'll be cool too. But yeah, I used the iPad app and you can download the episodes like you said. I did notice that the quality was a little sketch, as you say. I kind of like that term, Ryan. I mean, I've heard it before, but I don't use it too often. You brought that up. I kind of like that. It was a little sketch. The quality was a little sketch. And so I noticed on the iOS app, you have to default it, or I should say the default is to the lowest quality video stream. So I downloaded the episode and it was only 250 megabytes or something. And I was like, well, that seems sketch. You know what I mean? That's a little sketch right there. So, so I had to change the settings and then, it was great, but like at 5 in the morning, Central Time. So, 6 Eastern, 4 Pacific, whatever, or 3 Pacific. The service was working great. There were no hiccups. I downloaded the episode, no problem. Streaming it to my iPad was fine. So yeah, it all worked out really well. I know that from looking online, I didn't have any time to, check the service at all during the day today. But from seeing online that people struggled with it or it was down for a time. So I was just happy it was running then. I hope it's back up now. I haven't checked, but I think it's been in and out probably right all day.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
But yeah, so the apps are up. Kevin was saying he was having trouble finding it on his TV, but he's got a Samsung TV, and so it's not Roku and it's not like Chromecast or whatever they call the Google version, So it's a smart TV, but it's the Samsung one, which I'm sure is good quality, but maybe the distribution is not quite as snappy because they're not supporting Fire Sticks and Apple TVs and all that stuff. They're just supporting just the OS on the TV. So I could see where they might be the last one to kind of update and get that out. But anyway, if it's 2019 and you want to watch and you live in a place where they've put the service up, you have a device that'll play it and it'll be fine, I'm sure. Today's rough, but yeah, it should be good.
Have you checked to see if the Switch app is up?
They are bringing it to Switch, aren't they?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Oh my God.
Ooh.
No, I have not. I haven't checked that.
Yeah.
I haven't checked that. I will definitely put it on my Switch.
Nice.
I couldn't change my profile picture today, though. I was really trying to change my profile picture, and I couldn't pull that off. I think the service was down or something. So, anyway. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Yeah, so what else, Ryan? Oh, the 4K versions of the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a 4K TV, and we're actually able to look at that stuff, huh?
Yeah. I watched like the first half of A New Hope today. Also, I called in to work today, partially because I was sick, but I think it was also like, Disney Plus launching. Maybe I wouldn't have otherwise. Maybe.
God,
I don't know.
You can't admit that on the air, Ryan. This is going out to the multitudes.
That's true. Hey, I'm being honest. I'm bringing my whole self to work. But yeah, no, I was actually like pretty gross and sick, and like I actually had I was like, I'm gonna just binge Disney Plus all day, and at about 11 this morning, I fell asleep and slept until about 20 minutes before we started recording tonight.
Oh, nice. Okay, well rested.
Yeah, so it was actually probably good. But so I watched Mandalorian twice. I watched a few episodes of Clone Wars. I watched some bonus features for Star Wars films, and I watched half of A New Hope. And A New Hope looked great. It was I'm not like well versed enough to be like, oh, that's 1440p checkerboarded up to 4K or whatever. Like, I don't know if it's like how good the 4K transfer was, but it looked crazy good on my TV.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a fake 4K. I think it's legit. And the reason I say that is because of the how do we say it? McClunky? McClucky? How do you say it? McClunky?
McClunky.
Yeah,
McClunky.
For those who haven't heard yet, Greedo now says McClunky right before he gets shot by Han Solo in A New Hope, and we haven't seen that before. And so Lucasfilm, in an Anthony Bresnikan Vanity Fair piece, I think. I don't know if they confirmed it. I didn't get a chance to look at it yet, but I don't know if they confirmed it to Anthony or if Anthony was using what was going on online to confirm. But one way or another, it has been confirmed via Pablo Hidalgo and other sources, I think, within Lucasfilm, that George Lucas was the one who wanted to change it to McClunky or whatever, and it was during the 4K transfer process. So, because you never know. I mean, it could be one of those things where they take the Blu-ray and then they re-output it at 4K resolution, but the source is not 4K, so it's like, well, what different, you know what I mean, or it's upscaled or whatever. But no, I think these are the 4K transfers that we've known that they exist. I mean, people have talked about watching it in 4K at Lucasfilm in their theater and stuff, so it's not been a secret that they did the 4K versions. But yeah, it's kind of funny that Disney just sort of stealth was like, well, let's put as much 4K stuff on the app as we can, so we've got them, we'll put them up. I've been expecting a big 4K like box set release after The Rise of Skywalker. I imagine we'll get that still, but the future, I guess, is streaming, and so why wait for that if people can watch it on their Disney Plus accounts? So that's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, if they were going to like put those up eventually anyways, like, why not just do it now? Like, give people, the best stuff right now.
Right, for sure. And it's the prequels too are in 4K, which those have never been released in 4K.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious about
Force
that one.
Awakens
Yeah, Force Awakens has not been...
And it's Dolby as well.
Dolby HDR or Dolby Atmos? Or both, maybe?
I believe.
Atmos sound. Okay, yeah, that's new.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I'm sure that it played in Atmos in some theaters, maybe. Although I don't know, Atmos is pretty new. I don't know if that was around in 2015, but yeah, the original trilogy obviously never been in 4K. Force Awakens never been. Prequels never been released in 4K. Really curious about what they're doing with Attack of the Clones too. Maybe somebody knows, but I believe Attack of the Clones was shot in 1080p because they were using digital cameras at the time, and so I don't really know how they would do the 4K thing there. They might have had to fake it with might have had to. I think they had to fake it with Attack of the Clones because I don't believe 4K reference footage exists, but I'm sure it still looks great. I'm not that worried about it. I don't have 4K TV, so,
yeah. I have a 4K TV, but it doesn't have HDR, and I've heard some of the HDR is insane. Someone was tweeting about watching Empire Strikes Back, and they were just, like, blown away by, like, the lighting and stuff.
Right, and the color timing on the Blu-rays is suspect. It's sketch, actually. The color timing is a little sketch on those. And so, yeah, we need, I'm sure there's a million film sites I don't know about that do this, but the way Digital Foundry will go in and really pick apart the technical details of a video game release, or a piece of hardware. I would love to see somebody do that with these 4K HDR versions of the Star Wars movies and compare them to other versions. So, but yeah, that stuff is awesome. I'm a little disappointed. I want to get into the Mandalorian ASAP, but I'm a little disappointed about the bonus feature stuff because I had seen that the bonus features or extras were there, but it's like it seems to me that it's about as many as they can fit on one page without like going beyond like a certain number of drop down, whatever. Because there's like a lot of stuff that's not there for all of them. And,
there's a ton missing.
And like I saw that some movies have deleted scenes, and then other movies have like featurettes. Like I don't know if the Force Awakens deleted scenes were there, but I saw the featurettes were there. They are.
Yeah.
I don't know about all of them though, because it looked like it was just one page.
I watched a few of them. I was like I pretty much watched one thing from each movie and some of that's like it's I mean they definitely didn't go back and improve the quality, like the video quality of any of that stuff. I can tell you for sure. Like I was watching one of like the Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes, the Shak Ti one, and it's in like a Sega CD video window basically. Like it's super like artifact and it did not look good. That scene rules though. But the
Force Awakens, I just looked at it. That's what that sound was. Is my app opening up there, but the deleted scenes are there. The featurettes are not there.
Yeah.
But then there's this blips thing at the bottom that they have.
Yeah.
Not blips, but something like that, like emoji. Force Awakens in emoji. Actually, that might be from the guy who did the, who's doing the roll out or whatever, the BB-8 thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
that's
those are
great.
That is. I love those.
Yeah. So I'll have to watch that. But like then Rogue One, I think had all the featurettes, but not deleted. I don't know. It's wild.
Did Rogue One even have deleted scenes?
Maybe not. I don't know. The commentaries aren't there. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
Like you, if I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes I go downstairs and lay on the couch because I want to wake people up. And I'll like put headphones in, just like let the commentaries put me to sleep, which I love doing. And I was like, I don't have to buy the digital versions of these movies now because I can just, use the app because they're all up there. But I don't know. Those things go on sale for $10. So I have like half of the Star Wars movies. Apple, whatever, iTunes, whatever you call it. And a lot of the features are there, but even on those versions, all the bonus features from the Blu-rays and DVDs aren't there. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to segue us into The Mandalorian by talking about two of the features for that is, for one, there's a ton of languages. They had, like, it's weird for, like, not actually having an international release of the app that there's all these international versions, but I mean, I guess like, okay, that like came off like weirdly xenophobic.
No.
But like, well, I mean, I guess like launching the app in America, it's appropriate to have, tons of languages. Because there's tons of languages in America, even though there's like a few predominant ones. But I thought that was really cool that they had all the different languages. And there also something else that was really cool was, I don't know what it's called. Is it adaptive audio, maybe? Where it's like the show's audio and a like narrator explaining the action.
Right.
They had that there right away as well, which is also awesome for like hard of seeing fans.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I don't know if this was universal, but I haven't actually tried on my on the iOS app, but the subtitles, the closed captioning, there was no option for closed captioning on my TV app, the Roku one. And then the closed captions just didn't work on PS4. Like, I would select them and they just weren't showing up.
Huh.
So
but they were there on iOS?
I haven't checked yet.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But that was kind of, I mean, definitely disappointing for fans who are hard of hearing.
Sure. Yeah. That's weird. Yeah, I would think especially new content would definitely have the subtitles ready to go. So maybe that's a bug or, whatever. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, but
Yeah.
cool.
Anyways, Mandalorian.
Let's talk Mandalorian.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Well, it was weird. Because like, I mean, us specifically, we had seen a ton of this footage.
Yeah.
And we had seen it from being at the panel in Chicago in the auditorium. And we had seen like one of these scenes play out. We had seen the Werner Herzog scene pretty much in its entirety, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've also seen a ton of these visuals and like
like a lot of the battle sequences and stuff that we've already seen a lot of,
and the audio narration as well from Werner Herzog.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
And we
noted WrestleMania fan Werner Herzog.
Yeah, who's never seen a Star Wars or any Jon Favreau content.
No, he hasn't, but he's seen a lot of WrestleManias.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, so good.
So he his audio that we have had mean a few different things or be referring to a few different things in the course of the marketing, I guess. But we saw it in its full context finally in this video. So like it like the show felt like weirdly familiar, but like also like very like not knowing what's gonna happen next. I don't know.
Yeah. No, totally. Like I've seen a lot of this. I'm familiar with these setups and stuff, but I don't really know how everything's gonna shake out, sort of thing. Yeah, for sure. No, 100%. I mean, I basically knew how the battle sequences were going to go, I guess you'd say. Although the last one with IG-11 I guess there was a little tension there about how's this all going to shake out or whatever. But, you know, we'd seen a lot of that stuff, and that's cool. I mean, I think that's the right stuff to put in a trailer to hook people. But it's not uncommon these days with Star Wars projects, I think, TV shows or movies, to, if it's a movie, to feel like, oh, okay, I've seen a lot of this stuff in the trailers in the first, like, third or half of the movie, and then for the second half to be very new, and, you know, you've maybe seen a couple shots from it, but they definitely, I mean, why wouldn't they? But they definitely kind of pick heavily from the beginning of something to you know, get your appetite whetted with the trailer, but then they kind of don't show you too much from later on, whether that's a season of TV or a movie or whatever. So when I was getting to the end of the episode and I was like, okay, I've seen a lot of footage of pretty much almost every sequence from this episode, I kind of got excited because I was like, that means I really haven't seen anything from the remaining, 7 episodes, right? So
yeah, totally. I felt the same way.
Because like watching the trailer, it's like I can't think of a shot in those trailers. I mean, a couple. There's some stuff at night, and there's a few things with, like, I guess in that more recent trailer, the one we watched, where it was like, well, there's not much to say because it's a lot of stuff we've already seen. There was, I guess, quite a few shots in that one that we haven't seen yet, but nothing like major. Like how we'd seen long sequences and lots of shots from the stuff in this episode.
I mean, I think like the big things coming forward that we've seen but haven't like really seen is like around like Cara Dune.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely had that deja vu kind of feeling watching some of it for sure. You have here that the stream looked amazing.
Yep.
I thought so too. Again, I only watched on a small iPad screen, but it is pretty high resolution, and I thought it looked great as well. Definitely, I will say though, well, it's not a negative thing at all, but it definitely has a distinct look, I feel like, and a distinct tone for sure, and a distinct look. And I saw a lot of reactions this morning on Twitter that were like, oh, it feels just like the original trilogy. It feels just like the original trilogy. And I was like, I think you want it to, and or what you mean by that is there's a lot of like stuff that you've seen in the original trilogy, because I don't think like the look of it, the look is like really crisp and really desaturated and also very modern looking in a lot of ways. Not the costumes and stuff. I mean, that stuff looks like 70s Star Wars. A lot of it does, but overall it looks like a very modern show. I feel like it has a very modern soundtrack. The storytelling and pacing and stuff is really different from a Star Wars movie. To me, the idea that it feels a lot like the original trilogy, that's how I felt watching The Force Awakens. And I feel like that's true of The Force Awakens. Although even that doesn't look that much like the original trilogy. It looks pretty new and pretty modern, but it felt more like the original trilogy. So, I don't know. I think it has a pretty distinct look and feel, which I'm happy about. You know, I think that's great.
Yeah, it actually reminded me most of Rogue One.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I think a lot of the same sensibilities came in, where it's like these, like, a younger generation of filmmakers with access to, like, the best equipment and, like, a very modern education on filmmaking, like, taking what they love about Star Wars. Whereas I felt like what JJ did with Force Awakens was for like a lot of those visual tone. Like, I think he went, I don't know, he brought like a different skill set, and like we knew that he, you know, he has a soft spot for like emulating filmmaking techniques from the 70s and 80s. Like, I mean, if you look at something like Super 8 or whatever, whereas like I feel like Gareth Edwards brought like a really like modern digital filmmaking experience to Rogue One. And obviously Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are both coming from very digital filmmaking places as well, but they also are like, you know, they have in their heads like what Star Wars looks like. So it's kind of like the films from the 70s and 80s filtered through like a 2019 tech lens.
Yeah. I'd love to see a couple episodes on a big screen, you know, because part of me feels like I keep wanting to say that it looks like a TV show, but like in the best possible way, like not in a negative way at all. And I feel like in 2019, it really shouldn't even be interpreted as a negative thing to look like a TV show. But, I do feel like it's like, okay, like the quality of effects, the quality of the whole project. I mean, it just like, it looks so good. But I do feel a little bit like it, but it doesn't look really like one of the movies very much. It looks like it definitely has a distinct kind of thing. And I can't tell if that's like, it kind of looks like a TV show, or if it's just, this is a new Star Wars thing from a different team and it looks a little different. But if I saw it up on a big screen, I'd be like, this looks like a movie. It's just a different, like in the way Rogue One looks different from Force Awakens. I didn't watch Rogue One and think, well, that looks like a TV show. I just thought, oh, it's a different looking kind of movie. And if I saw this on a big screen, I might think the same thing about Mandalorian, because I don't think there was a single moment where I was like, I don't know about these effects, or like, it's not up to snuff. Like it looked fantastic.
Do you mean like a big screen, like a big TV, or like a theater screen? Like
I mean a theater screen. I mean, like if they screened it in a movie theater somewhere.
Okay.
You know what I mean? What would I think?
Ooh,
although,
I would
it's true.
love that.
Yeah. See, this is probably the thing that they should. I know Dave Filoni, it was not his choice, and he probably didn't like the idea of them making the Clone Wars movie into a movie. But like, this is probably the project where it would have been like, hey, take the pilot I did and put it on a movie screen, not maybe Clone Wars, season 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hopefully, I'm sure we're not the only ones thinking that.
Yeah.
So.
And then sound-wise, I've only watched it once, like I said, and I watched it on AirPods, which are, decent headphones, but nothing amazing. Looks like you watched it on a PlayStation Gold headset, which does the emulated surround sound. So, sound cool?
Yeah, it's virtual 7.1. Not really even sure what that means, but I've always loved that wireless headset. I use it for a lot of like my film watching, or when I'm playing like a really big game like Battlefront or God of War or something. Jedi Fallen Order. Like this is the headset I like to use.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it the soundscape was like really dense. And that's kind of one of those things that like, oh, it's Lucasfilm, of course it's gonna have like great audio and video production, but like it's also a TV show on a streaming service. Like you can't like take that sort of stuff for granted. But yeah, like it felt like seeing a Star Wars movie in the theater, like at least audio wise.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely got like a really cool sound. I've only seen it once. I'll have probably more thoughts on this as we get further into watching the show, but it has a cool sparse kind of thing going on a lot of times too, though, which I like. And the soundtrack I think is really cool and different. So different from Star Wars.
God.
Although I will say, like, I wondered. I mean, I'm sure they must have used real strings and stuff for the more orchestral sounding parts, but like a lot of the soundtrack is more like, I don't know if it's guitar or just like synthesizers and flutes and like stuff like that. And there's only a few times that I remember from watching the episode where you got more like of a, strings, like orchestra type sound, traditional Star Wars type music. And I do remember thinking like, I don't know, maybe it was my headphones, I'm not sure, but I remember thinking kind of like, this sounds like a little more like video game strings, like the soundtrack for like a video game than it does for like a movie, So I just wondered if they used like real strings. I would be shocked if they didn't, though. I mean, they even had episodes of Rebels where they like did real strings and stuff instead of just synth. But then again, maybe this is what this composer is more into. If he's done a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm sure there's a certain texture and feel to sampled strings versus real ones. Maybe that's more his, what he's into. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out more about it, and I'm definitely curious to hear more about that process. But I don't know. At the risk of sounding lame, the flute or whatever it is, the recorder, I think it's a recorder, like the diegetic sound when he was like calling the speeders or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so cool. I was like,
it was so good.
I'm hearing the flute and I'm watching the dude, or the recorder, I'm watching the dude play it. I loved it. That was so cool.
Perfect. Yeah. So the composer here is Ludwig Göransson. Swedish, so I'm sure I pronounced that very poorly, but this was just using, American English phonics. but he is a frequent Ryan Coogler collaborator. He is a young dude for a film composer. He is younger than us. Um, and he worked on like Creed and Fruitvale Station and Black Panther with Ryan Coogler. So a super interesting choice. I had never really thought about his like his music and stuff, but like when watching Black Panther, like there's other things that are like top of mind to me when watching that movie. So now I do kind of want to like rewatch it with the soundtrack in mind, but like when I feel like going into a Star Wars movie, like there's at least 25% of my brain going into Star Wars anything that's like gonna be totally focused on the music.
Yeah.
And so like in this, like you notice the music right away. Like it's not there, it's not really like ambiance or like refrains of past music or anything like that. It's like from that very first scene, like this is weird. It's totally different. Probably the most different music we've ever had in a Star Wars project.
I would say so, because even Clone Wars, Kevin Kiner, is it? I think is his name. George sort of told him like, let's do something different sound wise, and so they brought in like more varied influences and different kind of instrumentation and stuff like that. But it still had a bombastic, a lot of times, like more. Mm-hmm. It definitely was more in line with the normal Star Wars thing. But I think George really wanted him to go kind of away from the John Williams kind of classic thing and do something a little different. But it was not. I mean, at the time, it was like, okay, this is pretty different. But then you compare it to this, and it's like, yeah, not really, not so different. And he proved he could do more of a standard kind of Star Wars vibe with Star Wars Rebels, which had a more traditional Star Wars soundtrack, and that was great also. But yeah, I would agree. I think by far the farthest out there,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, which is really cool. And the soundtrack for the first episode, which is 9 tracks. Is up on streaming services now. So
yeah, that is so cool. They put it up like the whole for like I don't know if it's the whole thing, but they put up a lot of music.
Yeah.
From chapter 1, and seems they'll do that every week. They'll put the new chapters up, so that's really cool.
That's great. Yeah. All right. Should we get into the episode?
Let's get into the episode itself. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I guess now we can just kind of like freeform through like, I don't think we need to give like a total plot synopsis.
No.
But like, I think just what are the moments that were cool to you? What stuck out?
Well, okay, so I'm looking at your bullet point here, and I read the piece from Anthony Breznican, the Mandalorian Society hanging out underground. Mm-hmm. Like, I somehow missed this, or like I read the thing where he was like, oh, there's a bunch of Mandalorians in a room, and I was like, wait, what? I don't remember that. Is it right at the beginning?
No.
Where is that?
It's like a crucial plot point.
I was like, because when I saw the Mandalorian blacksmith who like, changed the armor or whatever, I was like, oh, there's another Mando. There's more than one. Is it that same scene?
Yeah. There's like 30 Mandalorians. There's little Mando children's foundlings running around with their helmets on.
Oh, okay. I do remember that. I remember hearing the term foundling.
Yeah.
Somehow
my goodness.
I like didn't notice this stuff. I don't know. It was 5 a.m, but
you also hate Mandalorians.
No, I don't hate Mandalorians.
You are anti Mandalore independence.
I have traditionally been anti-Mandalorian society existing in the Star Wars narrative. I don't want them to stop existing independently of the Star Wars narrative, but I would didn't like the episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels where it was like, let's show off this like complex political system and all that. Like, no, that was not something I was super into. And I kind of felt like too, like, okay, and I feel the same way about Jango Fett in the prequels and all that stuff too. It's sort of like, well, Boba Fett was like an iconic character. A lot, big part of that being because of what we didn't know about him. So then it was like, oh, I feel it's actually, I feel almost exactly the same way as I feel about the Jedi. I watched the prequels and like whenever, that Attack of the Clones, like arena scene, whenever there's a million Jedi on screen, when you look at that screen and you see more Jedi than not Jedi, I am not into it. I dislike that strongly because they're not special anymore. They're everywhere. I don't like that at all. I like the idea of like one Mando rolling into town. There he is. Damn. Or like when Obi-Wan's on Tatooine, there's that one Jedi hanging out in the desert. That's cool to me. Tons of them I'm not as into. But that being said, hey, you asked.
I'm not even going to touch this because I want to talk more about the episode.
That being said, we'll see what they do with it here because I don't think we're going to be sitting there watching like Mandalorian congressional hearings about stuff like we were in Clone Wars and Rebels. So maybe it'll be a little more toned down. So we'll see. But
okay, not gonna touch any of that.
All right, what else about the Mandalorian?
We can unpack that in another time. But
all right.
I love this because, and I think the Clone Wars and Rebels like gave us a ton of context for this that makes it really cool now, because now we're at, post Battle of Endor, end of the Empire, and we've seen all this like crazy political drama and like warrior clans and all this stuff. And then now there's a Mandalorian society living basically in the sewers, like the Murlocs from X-Men, and like just kind of like trying to carry on their way of life without we don't really know what the final state of Mandalore is post during this time period, I think, but like they are carving out their own society here, and like seeing like the kids running around and playing and stuff like in these tunnels. Like I thought it was really, really cool. And like, I think the most interesting part to me is the way that the Mandalorian takes his wages and essentially gives them to the community. Like all of his what was it, the Mon Calamari squishy dollars, like the little Tide Pods or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he gives that and the Beskar steel. He gives that to the like dead mother, the blacksmith, and like gives it like back to that community. Like he doesn't keep anything for himself. And that's super interesting. And like there's that part where Werner Herzog is like it's good to see the Beskar steel going back to a Mandalorian. And then she's like, oh, this is enough steel, and she melts it down. She's like, you have earned a pauldron, which is like, it's definitely like, it's both pragmatic for a warrior, but also like it's definitely symbolic as well. And then she's like, this will also like, we can also use this to equip and educate a bunch of foundlings. So like this is going to like, pay into the community and help keep our traditions alive. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
It is cool. It is cool. And I definitely caught that part, but I didn't really kind of pick up on, I don't know, like you've definitely kind of picked up on more of that kind of idea there than I did. Cause I was like, okay, well, he's going to have her turn this into a pauldron. That's what he's there. He's like buying a pauldron from her or whatever. And then she's like, hey, there's a bunch left over and that's going to go to the community. And that's cool. And he was like, okay, cool, whatever. But yeah, as you phrase it that way, it's like he put that brick of Beskar steel down and also those credits. And it's just like, yeah, he must not be motivated, obviously, by financial gain, which is an odd thing for a Mandalorian, or not for a Mandalorian, but for a bounty hunter. But Yeah, I did think it was weird. It was like, why did he agree to half credits? You know, he wanted the Mancala currency instead of the Imperial. And is it like because he's so anti-Empire that he doesn't want anything that's like a reminder of that, or doesn't want to be associated with that in any way? Or is there something else to it? I don't know. But, you know, one thing I guess related to that I thought was interesting is I definitely thought throughout the first season, and it could still happen, I guess, in other ways, but I really thought throughout the first season it would be more of a, this guy's a scoundrel, this guy's out for himself, this guy's a murderer, cold-blooded, whatever. But we'll start to see the armor crack as the season goes on, where it'll be like, well, he's kind of got a heart of gold, though, you know? And in this episode, we see him, you know, like protecting more than anything else. I mean, he's trying to protect this clan, or help, I guess, aid this clan of other Mandalorians. And then he's also unwilling to let IG-11 kill the being at the end of the episode. So it's like, man, I mean, he's pretty much like straight up babyface, you know, after watching this episode. And I didn't expect that. I thought he'd be, which I think is good, though, because it's like we've seen that before multiple times with other characters in Star Wars. So maybe it's cool that he's just, what you see is what you get in a lot of ways. It's clear he's got a complicated past, but he seems to be a rather good dude, I would say, so far.
Yeah, and I don't think we need like another like redemption saga right now.
No,
like,
right, totally,
I think it's I think it's fine just to like throw us in with this dude, and you know, I don't know. I felt like
did we need another baby though? Because we're getting another baby, and we got one of those already. So,
yeah. So I think he doesn't. Yeah, I think he's a good guy. People are calling him an anti-hero, but I don't think so. I think he's just a straight up good guy. Like, I mean, I mean, he's a bounty hunter, and you know, he you know, like, he kills people, but he's, I don't know, because I feel like Carl Weathers' character, Kiff,
I think it's Grief, but I forget his last name. Grief
Karga.
Grief Karga, yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like he's a good guy too. Like, he's like, these are just people, you know, a community of people working together just to get by in like a lawless land. And I think there is like, you know, some level of like moral code here. Actually reminds me a ton of like the character of The Witcher in a way. But yeah, but he also has like zero remorse for you know, the people he captures and kills, who are also, you know, we're meant to think that they're, you know, kind of deserve it.
But even that scene with the alien, I forget who plays him.
Horatio Sands.
Yeah, Horatio Sands, that dude in the beginning.
Oh God,
it's like he was so annoying, and he kept talking and kept talking. And I was like, if this dude's really an anti-hero or whatever, he's a super bad dude, he's just gonna like punch that dude or shoot him or knock him out or whatever. And like he like let that dude go down there and you know, get his molting on or whatever. And granted, he knew.
So
I think he obviously had it figured out. That was pretty funny. He had it figured out that this was, you know, not legit or whatever. But he gave the guy a chance, and like, seriously, the guy was so annoying. You would just kill him or knock him out or whatever, and he didn't. Or just throw him in carbonite from day one, because he's just going to piss you off all the way to wherever you're going. And yeah, he just doesn't seem like he wants to be cruel, you know. So
yeah,
he seems pretty patient and pretty willing to deal with people. So.
Yeah.
We'll see, I mean, as the show goes on, but...
Yeah, and I mean, that also, like, that whole segment, in addition to being hilarious, is also, you know, it tells us a lot about his character, because the guy's like, you know, whatever they're paying you, like, I'm gonna pay you more. Like, I'll get you more money. But, like, there is that, like, code and allegiance to the guild, where... he's like, you know, I'll get paid less, but I'm doing the right thing. Or I'm being consistent with my coworkers in the guild.
Well, and you have to imagine if that's your job, and word starts to get out that like when you capture a bounty, if they pay you more, you let them go.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to hire that bounty hunter? Probably not, right? So, doesn't seem like good business to do that for his line of work. But yeah. Nick Nolte is the best part of this episode. He's amazing. And I'll tell you what, after watching Horatio Sands, I was like, man, that alien might be the standout on this episode. But like, no, Nick Nolte, unbelievable. I'm a little concerned we were not going to get more Nolte though. I bet he'll have to go back. I mean, they built a relationship of a kind, so I bet he'll go back to him for some reason. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I don't think we're going to get more IG-11, and Nick Nolte, like, he served his purpose. And so we didn't know Horatio Sands was going to be in the show. We didn't know the guy from whatever sitcom that played the Uber guy.
Yeah, Brian Cushing.
Yeah, we didn't know he was going to be in it. So I'm just like, man, do they have like a million crazy cameos and they're just going to be like every episode is going to be a new Nick Nolte? And no, this is all the Nolte we get, But I mean, I probably not, but I could see that almost at this point, the way things are going. So, but he was so cool. He was so funny. He looked so good. Man, that was definitely a highlight for me. I love it.
Perfect casting.
And I love how that relationship represented too, because it was like very, just like he meets this guy. The guy is helpful. He wants to like reward him for helping. He wants to pay him. He's like, you deserve this money,
Mm-hmm.
And there's just like it felt like there was a lot of mutual respect there, and it was just it was just a cool, kind of good thing to watch. It was great.
Yeah. And it actually seemed like, those two were pretty aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And they both were just like, the galaxy sucks right now. Like, there's a ton of bad people. Everything's gone to hell, especially here. And, like, we gotta just do what we can as individuals to make it better.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm at about the 10-minute warning, so we need to talk about the ending of this show.
Great.
The only little bullet point on here that we haven't talked about is the humor. But, I've got some thoughts, but why don't we wait until after the second chapter and see kind of where it goes, and we'll have a little more consistency on that. But nobody's listening anymore that doesn't want it spoiled. But if you are, make sure you turn this episode off right now, because we are about to spoil the spoiler in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild. It's crazy. I don't know how to describe it, Ryan. I guess it's what it is at the end of the episode, they get their bounty, IG-11 and the Mandalorian that they had agreed to share, and it becomes clear, like, okay, well, we got to open this thing up, and then before you see what's in there, it becomes clear that it's like a baby bassinet or whatever carrier, and you still don't see what's in there. And it's like, oh wow, it's a baby, and I've heard rumors, online that he's gonna be protecting a baby or whatever. And then it's Baby Yoda, and it's out of control. Like, it's unbelievable. Uh-huh. It's so wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's actually Yoda, but it's a Baby Yoda species, so it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting the way they set it up, because they're like, Werner Herzog's character, which I need to just remember his name, so I stopped calling him Werner Herzog, but
the WrestleMania fan, you could call him
yeah. So he's saying, like, okay, I'm giving you this bare minimum of information, and like, he's giving it to the Mandalorian, but he's giving it to the audience to get us guessing, like,
expository dialogue.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, the Bing is 50 years old. So, like, immediately my head's like, is he like going to capture Snoke? That's where my head went. And like, I was like, okay, like, who's someone who's going to be like 80 years old by the time of, the sequel trilogy or whatever. And so I was like, I was picturing, like, or is it like, oh, is it Lor San Tekka? Like, what's a Bing? Like, who's a person in the sequel trilogy that's like 80? And so that's what I'm thinking. And then it, like, you get to that part you were just describing where it's like a ball And I was like, oh, well, that's probably not gonna be like Snoke or, Brendel Hux or,
Yeah.
whoever else. So I'm
Right.
like, okay, now I have no idea what this is. And then it could not have surprised me more.
No.
You get you get a Last Jedi esque reveal of the first shot is the back of the head with just the ears, which is where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then, you turn, like, the camera finally shows this 50-year-old being, and it is the being,
Mm-hmm.
as it's referred to. And it's this, like, Yoda slash Yaddle species, but it is like a newborn baby,
Oh,
despite being 50 years old.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And it's like really cute. I feel like I'll have to watch it again, but I feel like it doesn't look, I don't know, it almost looks like an emoji or something. You know what I mean? Like they went so cute on it that it's like kind of cartoony, but
Yeah.
big baby eyes and yeah, I don't know. But like in the moment I wasn't like, oh, that looks fake or anything. It was just like, wow, this is kind of a stylized.
It's the most CG looking
yeah.
thing on the show.
Yeah, and the least grounded looking thing. I feel like I guess maybe
Yeah,
those two things.
yeah, maybe that's more appropriate because like
Yeah.
everything else is just like all dirty and dusty, and
Right.
this is like this like glowing, youthful,
Yeah.
creature. Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, you had texted me about this morning and said like basically that you thought it was really meaningful because this is like the one thing that you could never touch in Star Wars storytelling. And here, Dave Filoni, this protege of George Lucas, in his first episode of live-action television, that he's directed, is playing with this idea. And I thought that was very well put and a pretty smart, observation. And then later in the day, I read a piece from Anthony Breznican in Vanity Fair where he said almost exactly that. And I was like, did you somehow read Anthony Breznican's piece before he posted it? Or are you guys just on the same wavelength?
Yeah, I guess we're on the same. I
maybe
think
when you
like,
took that picture with him at Star Wars Celebration, maybe like a little bit of telekinesis occurred or something.
maybe we formed a connection, a red string,
Yeah.
perhaps. But yeah.
So
no,
what is
I
the
think-
shipper? How do we ship this? Like, what's the name for Grovnikin? Maybe.
Rybrez. Brez,
okay.
right?
Okay.
Anyways, no, I think a lot of Star Wars fans were thinking of this. I'm sure like it was top of mind for a lot of people. I think it's a place where there's a lot of weight and meaning in that. And I think
a lot of Star Wars fans are more insightful than me then, because I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they did this. I'm shocked. I never would have expected them to do this, but I never went to, and it's George letting Dave Filoni do it. You know what I mean? And you went right there, so that's pretty.
I went
I don't know,
straight
it's
to
pretty
the
interesting.
dark. I did not even hesitate.
It had something you wanted, and you just went right for it. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
No, I think it's significant on so many levels, and it kind of makes me tear up thinking about it. Is like live action Star Wars TV show was, George's White Whale. It's the one thing he didn't accomplish, in his ownership. It's something he felt super passionate about, and he never got there. So I think we already got like a great, we got that feeling back when Dave Filoni was announced as the you're the director of the first episode. It was like, oh man, George's protege is doing the first episode of this thing that George always wanted to do. So we already had that there. But then I think this just puts like another layer on it of just like, man, no one was allowed to touch this. This was the one, the one thing that you couldn't touch in Star Wars. I don't really think there was anything else like off limits in the same way as the Yoda Yaddle species. Because people took, in the EU, people took Star Wars just about everywhere and touched definitely everything.
Yeah.
And
I would love to know how this occurred. You know what I mean? Like, is it Favreau? Is it Filoni? That says, you know what, we gotta do, let's make a Baby Yoda, or like a Baby Yoda, species or whatever, or is it like an idea that potentially even comes from George in some way? You know what I mean? Because I'm starting to feel more and more like he's at least a little more involved than we know that he is. Like, he really seems to maybe be kind of involved. It basically in like the story consultant way that. There was the famous breakup after Force Awakens, and okay, he's not doing that anymore. But I wonder if he is maybe a little more unofficially, but or a little more on the down low. But I feel like he's. I got a feeling that maybe Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni and people like that are kind of calling George all the time, and he might be involved. And I think we talked about it in a recent episode, but JJ had said too that they'd met with George about Rise of Skywalker before they started the script or anything. So the idea that he's completely disconnected or whatever, it's probably not true. So I wonder if this could even have been like, is it something where Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are like, dude, let's just go for it. Let's just do Baby Yoda. Or is it a thing where, George even maybe suggested? I don't know. But
and we saw some footage today of George hanging out on the set of The Mandalorian.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, yeah. It's, man, it's like the best footage. It's got like, John and Dave working together, hanging out, and then like George Lucas is just like also hanging out and explaining things with his hands, drinking a Starbucks with with Kathleen Kennedy. It's definitely pretty fantastic. And those set visits are still happening.
Sorry. Sorry. It was updating Elliot on when I'm going to be done, which needs to be pretty ASAP. So
yeah,
I kind of missed that, but I need to see the footage. Where do I see it?
I just retweeted it. I saw it from Talking Bay 94.
Okay.
There's
great.
no sound, but there's a video of it.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up, Ryan. And we're going to be back in a couple days to talk more Mando and Chapter 2 and all that
I'm
stuff.
holding a lot in right now.
I'm sorry. But let's talk about, just quickly as we wrap up here, the whole Yoda thing. We talked about like what it means, like, on a meta level and outside of Star Wars and stuff. But like, just how do you feel about it as I guess, the MacGuffin of the Mandalorian series and like this important plot point going forward? And like, what are your feelings about the whole thing?
I mean, I think we're going to get a totally new style of Star Wars story here. If it goes the way I'm assuming it's going to go, I think the being is going to be a secret responsibility of the Mandalorian. I think he is going to transport the being. I think he's going to try to keep its presence hidden. And I think the being is going to be pretty defenseless. And we know that like the Mandalorian is pretty powerful, doesn't show much sign of weakness from this first episode. He's a super skilled warrior who likes the odds of 4 stormtroopers against him.
Great moment.
But now he's going to have a weakness.
Yeah.
Like something that can be attacked and exploited to get to him, and he's going to have to do the right thing and protect the being. And this is like it's like The Road or Lone Wolf and Cub or something. Like it's a type of storytelling that we haven't really seen in Star Wars before.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for him to be protective and protecting this character. The Yoda thing, I think it's a really fun surprise in episode 1. I'm really curious to see where it goes and what they'll do with that part of it and like the impact it'll have on the Star Wars universe and that kind of thing. But Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. What it'll be. I kind of like the idea of Yoda as this sacred thing that they don't play with too much. But then I also kind of like the excitement of like, oh my God, I never expected that. And now they're doing something with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious about what the significance will be. Like, is it like, oh, this is a really rare species and they're worth a lot of money, and so we were going to give them to the highest bidder or something? Or is there some like more mythos-based kind of meaning to it and significance in that he's not just protecting a helpless being, but he's protecting something of significance to the galaxy or whatever. I wonder kind of where things are going to go with that. I really don't know, but I'm definitely curious. So
yeah, and I think it's worth noting that the only two creatures in this species that we've seen have been like very strong Force users in Yoda and Yaddle. So
I'd like to maybe do a little more purposeful forgetting about Yaddle than you seem to be pretty big on bringing Yaddle up every time you bring up Yoda.
You can't deny
I don't think
Yaddle.
we need to think about Yaddle all that much, but
I think we need to think about Yaddle. She was on the Jedi Council.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, okay. Fair enough. We can spend the next couple days thinking about Yaddle as we prepare for our episode this weekend. So, I need to watch The Mandalorian Chapter 1 again. I definitely need to watch it again. So I'm excited to do that. Can't wait to see
I'm going to go
next.
do it again right now.
Nice.
I'm going to do a third viewing.
Very good. Very good. Cool. So, I'm sure any listeners or viewers will be definitely on Disney Plus big time over the next couple days. And we'll check back in with you guys this weekend. So until then, you can find everything we do at blockaderunnerpodcast.com. Email us and let us know what you think about The Mandalorian. We'd love to hear from you. blockaderunnerpodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter at blockaderun. Ryan, you're on Twitter at
Brandwarf, BRAWNDWARF, and you can tweet me all your thoughts about Yaddle. Don't stop thinking about Yaddle.
Yeah, you can just bypass the official Blockade Runner account and go straight to Ryan with the good Yaddle content. I find Yaddle kind of sketch, but yep, I do. All right, so we'll be back soon with more Mandalorian content and more Star Wars content. And you don't like that? You find the word content?
Don't say content.
Content is sketch to you. All right, we'll be back with some more sketchy
conversations.
Star Wars talk. Yep, some more sketch talk. All right, bye.